Welcome to another episode of Faith in Home Buying, where I'm enjoying equipping people of faith for the home buying process. And this wonderful market of ours, especially if you've been paying attention to any type of news, and I'm sure anyone out there that has started their home hunt, it's been a nothing short of an amazing journey. Definitely a test in your patience, definitely a test in your faith, not only in the process, but just the faith to know that if God told you to step out, that you are truly stepping out. Because as a buyer stepping out in some of these markets, especially this one, you got to know that you're called to step out because it'll get you. But hopefully today I'm going to share some insights that I recently have been dealing with on the sell side and also on the buy side. And I'm hoping that some of my insights can help some people out there, especially if you're new to the market, brand new to the market, and even a newer agent as well. Because a lot of the things that I talk about, and I think I'm getting more comfortable with it. I mean, shoot, I've been in the business now for over Ooh, about 18 years. Those of you that probably know that I started off as a carpenter and did a lot of missionary trips, but I loved carpentry. I loved helping people. And when I used to, build homes for the homeless and, hand over keys, I mean, I love the idea of home ownership. And so that's why I got into the business. But aside from that, it's just, I've learned a lot and I've been in a lot of different, um, just a lot of different markets, from 2005 to 2006, 2007. Around in those times, it's when you had a lot of short sales. You had a down market, you had to adjust to how you bought homes then. And that was a crazy one, at that. There were homes sitting for months and sometimes years, the beautiful homes that no one offered on because the market was just stagnant, because people were scared, didn't know what was going to happen because we were in pretty much a recession, right? And then it came back up again. Yay, everyone's out there. In 2018 or so, that market was hot too. 2014, all of these markets had been hot, and then they had different levels of successes and failures in them. So all that being said, there's a lot of history that I carry behind me that I don't always uh, talk about a whole lot because I don't want to discourage people. But then I don't have to. I don't know. There's just certain things that you just don't need to say all the time with people. Hopefully they see, your track record. But all that being said is in this market, you really have to trust the professional and trust someone that really knows what they're doing. And if it's even a newer agent, what brokerage do they have behind him? What team lead do they have behind him to give them some credibility on being able to handle this market? Because what I see on the listing side are those that don't really understand some of the ways in which you can, strengthen, number one, your offer, strengthen your resolve, or just strengthen your advocacy for your client when wanting to get your offer accepted, especially in a multiple offer situation, in a situation where it's a seller's market, not a buyer's market, but a seller's market. And I don't think that people have enough information. So we're going to talk about that today. First, I was reading, just a quick thing in Proverbs that kind of prompted, my thought and thinking about those that, don't really know the market, but think they do. But it's Proverbs 11:2. It states, when you act with presumption, convinced that you're right, don't be surprised if you fall flat on your face. But humility leads to wisdom. This is all important in this market because you will be humbled, especially if you're throwing your hat out and not really, as a first time home buyer and not really understanding where we're at in the market and where traditionally, for instance, our parents were, so when someone was buying in the 80s or, the 90s, it was a lot of it was just a different market. And it's great that parents give advice to, your kids on what you should do, hold out for this. But in all actuality, if you haven't been in the market in about, I'd say from 2018, on up, everything else goes kind of out the door on how you approach offers and how you approach strength of offers, right? Especially because we've been in a seller's market for a while. There was a big point of time when COVID had started where there was a little bit of a buyer kind of incentive, and those that got in, they swooped in and got some great deals on homes, and you can go in really, really low. So again, it depends on where you're at in this cycle of events, right? There's big windows and you got to move. And if those windows close, either have to wait back up or go inside that market, but you got to know what things to do. So one of the things I want to talk about, I have a listing, and someone had called in on the listing, and bless his heart, he was interested in the property. It was listed for a particular amount. I had told him that what the list price is, and he was only approved for 550, which was under the list price, and the list price was 565, just the list. Okay. And so he was like, hey, I want to work with you as a listing agent so that I can get this home at 550. And I had begin to tell him, I said, oh no, so you're approved for 550, but you want to buy something that's more. I said, okay. I said, I'm not sure if you're working with an agent or not. And I was polite because I really wanted to help him out. And I said, in this particular market, especially in the Bay Area, East Bay at that, because it's really, really hot, you see what the list price is. And I think they have a lot of good information that's out there. I would say maybe 75% of it is decent, where you can find out what things cost, right? And I said, with your max value or your max approval amount for your pre-approval, you probably need to look at homes that are about the 440 range to 499 or so, so that you can compete with other offers that are going out there and get the homes. Because if you find that you have been continuing being beat out, it's because you're probably in the wrong price point to make you stronger. And upon saying that, he's like, no, 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 I don't never pay, full price or over anything. This is a market where you can get a bargain. But I'm sorry, in this particular market, just this one, if you think that this is a tactic that you want to use, you'll probably find that there's a lot of agents that really won't work with you. Or you'll get a lot of pushback from a lot of agents that know that this particular market, unfortunately, this is not the market to bid under unless it's been sitting for a long time and you might be able to get something out of it. But a lot of them are still waiting out. Maybe they don't need to move right then and there. And I've had some of them that do that too, where they're just keeping it at that price point and they'll just wait. And so that being said, I had an example of a home that was listed at $849, and this is wonderful Oakland. And I had a client that was really interested in going at the list price of like $850, $860, and that was not good enough. And based off of the numbers and the facts and everything around the area, I knew that it was not appropriate. It would not work. And lo and behold, found out from the listing agent, and sometimes they give it up, sometimes they don't, but sometimes you're able to get it from them. But found out that it sold at over 15 offers. It sold, got accepted for over 1.1. And now this is heads and shoulders even over the one that was next door that had more bedrooms. This is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, and the lot size was ridiculously big. However, yeah, those are just examples that hopefully list price versus value, there is a difference. When I come back, I'm going to talk a little bit more kind of on the listing side, what I've seen. Hopefully it'll help somebody and, to kind of relook on how your strategy is going when trying to get your offers accepted, even on a preemptive offer. There's some tricks that you can do from that, and some things I hope that I can help some people out with. Well, this is Tamika Ellsworth. Faith in home buying, equipping people of faith for the home buying process. Stand by for some next tips. So second segment, I promised I was going to talk about more tips, tricks, and just kind of things that I've been seeing. And I hope it helps somebody out, not only just a buyer, but if you are a newer agent or an agent that hasn't really been in this type of market before, hopefully these little things can help. I just talked about list price versus value, understanding that the list price is not necessarily meaning you're paying an exuberant amount over. It's just how certain areas market their homes. And that comes with time to know these particular things and how people offer on these homes, average price over, right? But then also too, knowing that in a seller's market, it's not trying to offer under the list price. You'll get beat out every time and you get frustrated. Okay. Some people think that the highest and best offer is a myth. Oh, I'm just going to go in with what I feel that it should be, and that will be it. Kind of throwing all the way things to the wind of comparables and what the market trend is doing. And this can sometimes be frustrating, not frustrating just to you, because, us as agents, we want to work for you and want to make sure that we represent you to the best possible way that we can. In this market, sometimes we got to get you to a particular level so that you get comfortable in understanding how a certain market works. But you got to also understand too, that if we are privy to the market and understanding what's going on, what we're trying to tell you, we're not trying to sit here and get a bigger commission by saying highest and best. No, believe me, there's not that big of a difference between a 50,000 increase or whatever on a commission. It's not. What we're trying to do is, hopefully by the 10th time that an offer has been submitted, if it even gets to that high, is to get your offer accepted. That's the biggest motivation right now, at least for myself with my clients. And other markets, other motivations happen, but in this particular market, it's negotiation, it's advocacy, and it's getting your offer accepted so that we can have a chance to play in the game, and so that home ownership can be a possibility for you. So that happens in many different ways. Okay. One of them is coming in maybe even preemptively. And so this is a tip on preemptive offers. I have listing. And now, granted, it was a great list, a price that they came in. Everything was pretty much solid. This person was 20% down. They looked like they had a whole lot more, money to work with. However, they had really long contingency periods. Now, contingencies are ways out. When you work with me and you get past the pre-approval stage, I will go over what contingencies are. I go over all of that stuff, but contingencies in a nutshell are ways out. You have about three main ones, and there's other ones too, but three main ones are property, loan, and appraisal contingencies. Those are your huge ones, okay? When you come in preemptively, you want to come in as strong as possible. Why? Because in a multiple offer situation, I can utilize other offers in order to make one offer go higher than the other. So you use the offers in order to increase the volume. That's my goal. My goal is the highest and best price and the offer that will close for my client when I'm a listing agent, okay? And when you come in preemptively as a buyer, you have to make sure that, number one, it's worthwhile for the seller of the home to accept that offer before an offer deadline. Offer deadline is maybe 5 days, but if you want to try to pull it off, if you're coming in with a high price, that's great, but your terms have to match that high price. For instance, if I'm coming in at a price of, 600,000, right? And I have an appraisal contingency on there, a long one at that about 14 days or so. And something ends up happening with the appraisal, it doesn't end up appraising at the value that it is. So therefore, you can either cancel as a buyer, cancel, or you make up the difference. Now, if you have an appraisal contingency on there and you're coming in at a high price, I'm looking at this as a buyer like, okay, well, wait, you're coming in at a high price, but who says it's going to be at that high price? You can pull out, back out, or say, I'm not going to pay it and walk. That doesn't do anything for me as a listing agent or for a buyer. And so, also too, having a loan contingency that is so long. It's not the fact that it's a loan contingency, but it's so long. By default in the contract, loan contingencies are 21 days. If you're giving me a 28 days to close, so 28 days it takes to close, but you're also saying that it's going to take me 21 days to make sure that my loan is intact. That's a long time. That's the whole time wasted possibly on a person that supposedly is a strong offer. However, they may cancel 7 days from the time to close. That's not really strong. And so, I had this experience and trying to educate the agent, like, you got to come in a little bit stronger than that if in fact you want to pull the home off the market, knowing that I have multiple offers. And I ended up having multiple offers, ended up having about seven offers on this particular property. And no, we didn't accept anything necessarily that high, because it's not always the price, but it's the terms that make a big difference. We were able to get satisfying terms for my clients. So that's another strategy. So just watch out for if you're doing preemptive, come in strong, make it palatable, make it worthwhile, for the seller to take a home off the market. I was just once recently just took one off the market with an FHA buyer, bidding out a conventional. But it was the advocacy with it as well. It wasn't just, hey, this is a high price. No, this is a solid person, solid offer. This is what we're willing to do. This is what we're going to do. This is what I prompted my client on with regards to the negatives and the pros and cons of the property. And this is why we're going to go forward. And this is why we will close. So there are ways in which you can go about versus just a high price and thinking that that's going to be the thing that gets you in. You got to come with strategy. Every single property has a different strategy. And if you understand, number one, the listing agent, you understand the motivation of the sellers, that will help you out fully. Also, making sure that you look at the disclosures, on a home, if they have them. You've looked them over. You've made sure that you've ruled out anything. If anything happens, the appraisal, you've looked over the comparables. You made sure that they call things called bridges, right? So you maybe put things inside the offer or spoke with the listing agent saying, okay, if the home does not appraise for X amount, I'm willing to pay 20,000 or 10,000 over what the appraised value is. That's a good thing. But also to understand too, with bridges, if someone comes in and doesn't have a cap on what they can pay, that's obviously more appealing than someone saying, I'm capping it at 10,000 over. So that's something to also think about too. When you cap yourself versus someone that's not capped, I can trump you. Trump you. I can beat you because of the fact that I don't have a cap. Okay, so just be careful with those, just to make sure that it makes sense to the situation, how many offers are in, and just so that it makes sense. Because sometimes you capping yourself, you put yourself out of the game. But then also too, just having contingencies and loan contingencies. The biggest thing for my clients and getting into this market, and especially if I'm working with a lender that I haven't worked with necessarily before, I say, please go all the way through to the underwriting process. And what's that? So pre-qualification is one thing. Okay, that's just, okay, I'm feeding you the information. I told you how much I make, how much are in my bank account, and you spit out a approval or pre-qualification. So you qualified me, not as strong. A pre-approval. Okay, you've taken in my information, you've actually checked my information as a loan officer or processor, but it hasn't went anywhere further than that. You may have gotten approval in the system, but it hasn't gotten any further than that. We haven't gone to the underwriting status. And the underwriter is the person that does the checks and balances, right, with a particular lender. A lot of in-house people, as far as direct lenders, they have a lot of in-house lenders. And a lot of big banks have in-house lenders. Mortgage brokers, they have to kind of go to a particular lender ahead of time and do that. And it all depends. It could switch because different lenders can switch when they broker it out. However, if you can get down to the point where you're at the underwriter, where the underwriter is looking at your file, and you've answered any kind of conditions, you've given them the paperwork that they need. So when you get into contract, the strength of your offer is not the fact that, you have a loan, and, there's other people with, maybe a cash that you're going up against, but you can compete because your offer has went, or your loan has went all the way down to the underwriter. So there's barely any conditions that you have to meet. They've already looked at your file. You are pretty much that close to just being done with your loan. That's what you want to do. And those that are saying that there's lenders that don't do that, sorry, yes, there are. Contact me, Tamika Ellsworth, 408-561-7922. I can let you know that there are lenders that out there that do that because they understand the market and the competitive aspect to it. And then also too, you as a buyer, you got to make sure that your lender is on point, especially when they give information and what they can actually do to get your offer accepted. Not only just is it the agent, me, that has a big responsibility, but it's also the lender. A lot of my listings have been accepted, not only just from my advocacy, but from my lender advocacy. When they call and they talk about the loan, they talk about everything, and they give examples, and they let the agent know, what they can do and what they can accomplish. That's huge. So just know that there are ways in which, and hopefully you caught on some tips that you can make your offer better in this particular market, and actually being able to navigate this market and understanding that it's not like markets of the past. It is its own uniqueness, but doesn't mean that offers can't get accepted. It doesn't mean that it's impossible. For more tips, I'm going to come back the next one and talk about more tips and things that I've been seeing, because I think it's been really, really helpful, at least for those that have given me feedback. But Tamika, Ellsworth.com. You can catch me there. Remember, on Instagram, you can catch me there too, at Tamika Ellsworth, and then also on TikTok, Tamika real estate _T, real estate _T for TikTok. And you can always catch me at 408-561-7922 if you have 7922 if you have any questions. Thank you so much, and be blessed.